Good evening, I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're watching News X. Yes, India is all geared up for Chandrayaan-2, India's maiden mission to the moon. It will launch at 2:51 a.m. on the 15th of July from the Sriharikota space station in Andhra Pradesh. It's ambitious and it's exactly the push India needs to make. We break it all down for you in this special report. Well, let's in fact begin by getting for you all you need to know about Chandrayaan-2 from the beginning till the end.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have ignition.
Now, the GSLV Mk3 will carry Chandrayaan-2 to its designated orbit. This three-stage launch vehicle is India's most powerful launcher till date and is capable of launching 4-ton class of satellites into space. That's 4,000 kgs worth of payload. It has twice the capacity as compared to the GSLV Mk2.
The GSLV Mk3 stands for Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle Mark III, also called the Bahubali thanks to its launch capabilities, and is India's heaviest launch vehicle till date. And if you were to look at it, it's as high as a 15-story building with a height of 43.43 meters. This launcher weighs a whopping 640 tons. That's 640,000 kilograms. That's the weight of 405 SUVs. Operating in 3 stages, the GSLV Mk3 has 3 components. The first component is the S-200 solid rocket booster, which can be seen on either side of the launcher. This is the first stage of liftoff, which simply means that this stage carries solid propellants and its ignition is what makes the rocket launch. The second component is called the L110 liquid core booster. These are the 2 clustered Vikas liquid engines, carrying the liquid propellants which ignite in the second stage approximately 120 seconds after a liftoff. The last component, known as the C-25 cryogenous upper stage, marked a major achievement for India in the use of cryogenic technology. It's our most powerful upper stage yet, using liquid oxygen and hydrogen as propellants. It's the most complex stage of the liftoff because it has unique design challenges. Scientists have to get it just right, considering the hydrogen is stored at minus 253 degrees Celsius and oxygen at minus 195 degrees Celsius in 2 separate tanks. An orbiter is a spacecraft designed to go into the orbit but not land. It flies around the planet, making observations like weather and mapping, acting as a communication relay for experiments and on the surface. Orbiter of Chandrayaan-2 weighs 2,379 kgs and has the capability of generating 1,000 watts of electricity. The structure was made by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. After the launch, the orbiter will be able to communicate with the Indian Deep Space Network and will simultaneously communicate with the lander. The orbiter will carry the lander while the lander will carry the rover. This is how the lander and the orbiter have been stacked. It will take the orbiter 16 days to reach the Earth's orbit. But the main task of the orbiter is to successfully enter the Moon's orbit, covering a distance of 384,000 kilometers. The orbiter will then revolve around the Moon's orbit for 27 days to reach a distance of 100 kilometers from the Moon. As it won't be landing on the Moon's surface, but will only be scanning it before giving the lander the go-ahead to separate and land. The total time estimated for this entire process is 58 days. This image was released by ISRO to help us understand the path of the orbiter. The orbiter and the lander will be stacked together and will be injected into an Earth parking orbit after going around the Earth several times. The orbiter will be inserted into an extremely elliptical lunar orbit, which will be reduced to 100 kilometers over the surface of the moon after a number of orbits.
Vikram, the lander, will land on the moon anytime between the 6th and the 7th of September 2019. If all goes well, which it should, up until this point, ISRO has used the same strategy as the Chandrayaan-1. What's new, in fact, is this landing. We will for the first time attempt what is called a soft landing on the lunar surface, and if successful, India will join the elite space club with US, China and the erstwhile Soviet Union as the fourth nation in the world to have achieved this feat, and that too in the first attempt.
This is what the lander Vikram looks like. All hopes of Chandrayaan-2 rely on this 1000 kg device. Once it lands successfully, it will put India in the international headlines once again. ISRO is sure of the landing. This is how we'll do it. Once the orbiter is in the moon's orbit, it will take 27 days to revolve around the moon and deorbit the lander. This will happen at a distance of 100 kilometers, and it will take the lander, once separated, 4 days to reduce the distance to 30 kilometers. Meanwhile, the orbiter will be scanning the surface of the moon for a landing site. Once the site is locked, the information will be relayed to the lander. On the 6th or the 7th of September, 53 days after being launched, the lander will have 15 minutes to make a soft landing. It will travel at a speed of 2 kilometers per minute so that the landing can be smooth.
It takes the 15 minutes from the starting of the braking of the velocity to landing. This 15 minutes is going to be the most terrifying moment for all the people who belong to ISRO, probably for the scientists and people of India also. Yeah, this 15 minutes is going to be the most difficult task that ever ISRO has undertaken the mission to land it on there.
The lander is landing on the moon's south pole, an uncharted territory. This location has been chosen as it is permanently shadowed. We're hoping to find water and minerals as well as clues about the early solar system. Lander of Chandrayaan-2 has been named Vikram after Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, the man whose name is synonymous with India's space program. It weighs a whopping 1,471 kgs and can create electricity up to 650 watts. It will function for 1 lunar day, which is equivalent to 14 Earth days, and has been designed to make a soft landing, which means that the vehicle will not be damaged or destroyed during the process. It has been equipped to communicate directly with the Earth and can also communicate with the orbiter and the rover. Once landed, it will be studying the moon's quakes while gathering data from the rover.
Chandrayaan-2 will be taking us to a part of the moon we've never been to before. We'll be mapping the shadowed craters of the moon. We'll get an even better access to the moon's surface and, more importantly, scientific data which will help us understand what we've known for a while now, the presence of water on the moon. But what's getting us that data? It's this 6-wheeled robot right out of an epic sci-fi. It's called the Pragyan, which means wisdom.
Here's a photo of the rover being placed inside the lander. Have a closer look at what this tiny wheeled robot looks like. With 6 wheels, the rover is perhaps the most important part of the entire mission. Let's see how it will work. After landing on the moon's south pole, the rover will be separated from the lander. It is estimated that this separation process will take about 4 hours, as the rover moves at a speed of 1 centimeter per second. The rover will immediately begin to collect data from the moon's surface. Pragyan will send this data to the lander, which will then be communicated to the orbiter, and that's how it will reach the Earth. Pragyan has been designed to be powered by solar energy and will only last for 14 days, as that's all the sunlight the south pole of the moon gets. Science apart, The rover carrying the Ashok Chakra on one side and the ISRO symbol on the other will leave India's imprint on the moon forever. Weighing 27 kgs with an electricity power generation capability of 50 watts, this tiny 6-wheel robot can travel a distance of half a kilometer. Taking Chandrayaan-1's legacy forward, the rover will be looking for further evidence of water on the moon while also studying its mineral and chemical composition, giving us a glimpse into the unknown parts of the moon. To carry out these experiments, the rover has been equipped with a laser-induced breakdown spectroscope made in Bangalore. This instrument will identify the many elements that we're hoping to find on the moon. The identification of the elements will be done by a second instrument called the Alpha Particle-Induced X-ray Spectroscope made in Ahmedabad.
What truly sets the Chandrayaan-2 apart from any other mission undertaken before is the location. It's headed to the moon's south pole, a previously uncharted territory. So a lot is riding on what we're hoping to find in this area of the moon. Countries with advanced space tech like the US, Russia and China all have landed on the moon, but nobody has managed to reach this part of the moon, making Chandrayaan-2 even more crucial to the global scientific community as a whole. So why the South Pole? Let's understand. To begin with, the South Pole of the moon is much more interesting than the North Pole with its large and numerous craters. It's also a permanently shadowed area of the moon. But that's not it. Chandrayaan-1 found water ice inside these craters. So now the whole world is eager to know where's this water, what else is in there in this unknown area, and whatever we find, what will that tell us about the moon, and maybe also give us a glimpse into the solar system. So this makes the objectives very clear. Number one, we're going there to look for water. We know that it's there thanks to Chandrayaan-1. So the study must continue, and that's one of the primary research that will be carried out by the rover. Number two, we're hoping to understand the early solar system. This part of the moon where we're landing is believed to have craters that are cold traps. So they contain fossilized records of the solar system which will be picked up by the rover. And number three, understanding the moon. The rover will be collecting data on the topography of the moon, the mineral composition, and also 3D mapping of the moon's surface. And of course, to carry out these experiments, we have three instruments. First, the orbiter. This will move around the moon at a distance of 100 kilometers, so remote sensing observations will be made by the orbiter, while the lander and the rover will be carrying out what's called in situ measurements. Simply put, that's on-site experiments, as the lander and the rover will be landing on the moon.
All right, well, joining us at this point on the broadcast is Pranab Bhattacharya. He's a scientist. Appreciate you joining us on NewsX, Mr. Bhattacharya. My first question to you is, why does everyone want to go to the moon these days?
This technological advances is not limited. Now every country wants to prove the superiority in technological advances, and India, being a vast country, and we are proud that we are Indian citizen. India has first launched the Chandrayaan-1 in 2008-9. That was in the orbit for 1 year, and now Chandrayaan-2, and this will be an unique one. Till no countries in the world they have attempted it. So this Chandrayaan-2, they will be, it will be sent on 15th of July this month, and it will reach there within a stipulated time, and it will be launched through the rocket MSLV Mk3, and this rocket will carry the lander and as well as the rover, and it will, they have a plan to station this one on the moon surface. So far, no country, as you already told, that Russia, America, there is a sort of a competition. So as I told you, it is natural instinct for a country to show their superiority. And here, the superiority in the space science, India will prove the #1 in the world once it starts station on the surface of the moon.
Okay. And how is this useful, though, Mr. Bhattacharya, for the common man? How will it help the economy on the ground level?
In the space science, India has got a lot of advancement. Or to keep the innovation in process, our engineering education has to come up to that limit, and this station, this station, once it is landing there, they will be sending lot of information, not only about the moon's surface, not only about the possibility of getting water on the moon's surface. It will also help send lot of pictures to our which will be helpful to the farming community, which will be helpful to our space scientists, which will be helpful to our students, those who are pursuing their education, and this will naturally energize the complete nation into a new league of career. In a new league of career, what I mean that this will energize the complete system of our country, so that the people, the next generation people, they will be so much inspired to go for, rather height the scale after scale in the technological advances today.
Okay. And all the youth, though, if we speak about the youth now, sir, are running after lucrative jobs outside. Why are there no good research institutes in India?
It is generally a trend. Now everybody wants, now our education and our unemployment scenario has become come to an age in such a way that the people want whatever they have learned, or their education is now oriented to the employment. So as you rightly told, that why the people, how ISRO will survive when the people are not going for the science education. They are mostly going for the information technology, so that ready-made jobs are easily available. But such an perspective, if we take, now ISRO can really be an example to the people of India, to the people, new generation people. They will attract to scientific studies, scientific research through such programs, and it will certainly help the student, which are the next generation student. I tell you, those who are just passed out from the intermediate and other, they will be really interested and encouraged and inspired to go for science education, which will certainly help for tomorrow's research.
And if we talk about some of the criticism now, sir, well, some foreign critics are saying India is too poor to afford space trips. What would you like to say to them?
I do agree that we are poor country. If you take about GDP and other things, we are really poor country on that matter. But that doesn't mean or give an excuse that we should not perform, we should not go a higher level or reach a higher side because we are poor. In fact, we are not poor. As you know, and you have seen in the present government, that the government is trying hard that whatever the benefits they are going to reach for the poor people and all, this is now going in. This is now going out to the people, those who would want. And then poor, we cannot take an excuse that we are poor and that's why you are not supposed to take any initiative which costs money. It should the upliftment of the poor, the upliftment of the people, as well as upliftment of the science and the research should go on hand by hand.
Okay. And should we put humans in space now? Should that be the next leap, sir?
Once our rover sends the information from the Chandrayaan-2 that this is capable of surviving. The people are, the life is capable of surviving on the surface. That depends upon the availability of water. And once water is available, that means oxygen is available. So once this is satisfied, then only, the entire world will be thinking, and the entire world is looking at India's, the research on, and then available data what they are sending through the rover, so that whether human capability of living on the moon's surface, it is possible or not.
Okay, and what about the strategic capabilities now, sir, and abilities that our space technology will help us develop? What about that?
Government led by Prime Minister Modi is taking a 360-degree approach. It is not that one-sided, now let the people come and get the job. It is, yes, it is job-oriented, it should be. It should be. The people, without having their food at stomach, they cannot work. But a 360-degree approach, now you remember that there are a lot of space research. It was stopped for almost over a decade. The scientists, they were interested to go, scientists, they were interested to produce, scientists, they were interested to really act on it, but there were no government support, rather financial support, available from the government. But this particular present government, they have come out, opened their coffer, and they are really encouraging the scientific authority or scientific community to come and really do that purpose, so that the young generation and next generation X is really interested in going for the scientific.
All right. Pranam Bhattacharya, scientist, appreciate you joining us on NewsX with your perspective on this story. Well, this time we'll of course be landing on moon, but we've been there before from a distance. Yes, India made headlines in 2009 through Chandrayaan-1. Take a look at what we found.
India's first lunar space mission made headlines after Chandrayaan-1 found direct evidence of water on the moon. The Moon Mineralogy Mapper was able to detect depositors as water ice concentrations near the polar regions of the Moon, a significant discovery. A second instrument of the Chandrayaan-1, the Mini-SAR, found water deposits in craters on the far side of the Moon, a blind spot for past lunar missions. A third instrument, the Indian Moon Impact Probe, further picked up signatures of water in the lunar exosphere. This discovery was the first ever data in the world of water's presence on Moon and was made possible by the sophisticated probe instruments which were designed to detect water in the hydroxyl ions form as opposed to the familiar water molecule. The terrain mapping camera recorded images of the landing site of US Apollo 15. While the X-ray spectrometer detected titanium, confirmed the presence of calcium and gathered the most accurate measurements yet of magnesium, aluminium and iron on the lunar surface till date.
And let's now take a look at the team behind Chandrayaan-2 who've been working round the clock to make this mission hopefully successful.
K. Sivan is ISRO chairman who is at the helm of all current ISRO missions. Chandrayaan-2 is also developed under his leadership. Milswamy Annadurai is project director of the mission. Around 40% of Chandrayaan team consists of women. 2 women are leading this mission. Ritu Karidhal is the director of the mission while M. Vanitha is the project director.
All right, and let's also get in another special guest joining us this evening. Dr. B.G. Siddhartha is joining us live, Director of the Birla Planetarium and Science Center. Appreciate you speaking with NewsX, sir. My first question to you is on India's space program. How has it gone leaps and bounds, sir?
In a sense, leaps and bounds, but definitely ahead, because we have explored the moon already and also Mars. So there is satisfactory progress.
But Dr. Siddhartha, some foreign critics though, and if we talk about criticism now to Chandrayaan-2's mission, are saying that India is too poor to afford space trips. What would your response be to them? What would you like to say to them?
India is a poor country, yes and no. In the sense, there are a lot of poor people, But look at the amount we are spending on elections and things like that. It's billions of dollars in dollar terms. So if a little bit of that, a small fraction of that is used for space, what is wrong? Because this way our prestige goes up, and also our space program is now beginning to get commercial, in the sense other countries are requesting us to launch their satellites for which we get payment.
And do you believe the next step now should be, sir, that we should put humans in space now?
These are all steps in our march forward. Humans is much more difficult and complicated, because if it is a robot or a satellite, and if anything happens to it, God forbid, then there is no loss of life. But the moment we introduce human beings, then the situation changes. It has to be even more delicate, and it becomes even more complex.
All right. Well, Dr. B.G. Siddhartha, Director of the Birla Planetarium and Science Center, appreciate you joining us on NewsX with your perspective on this big story. We'll, of course, continue our build-up to this big mission that will be lifting off tomorrow night.